Every skyline has a story, not just of steel, concrete, and architecture, but of the vision, the perseverance, and the grit of countless people who dared to imagine long before the world could see it. The same is true for life as well. Behind every achievement are countless moments that go unnoticed. The difficult decisions, the silent struggles, the setbacks that become stepping stones, and then the courage to start all over again. Today's guest has spent nearly 2 decades in an industry where every project starts with a very strong foundation. And so does every leader. As the managing partner of Uttaram InConstruct LLP, she has led projects, built businesses, and carved a place for herself in a field where women are traditionally underrepresented. But beyond the titles and accomplishments is a woman whose journey has been shaped by resilience, conviction, and the willingness to keep building even when life presented unexpected changes. Joining us today is an entrepreneur, leader, and changemaker, Ashwini Ananth. Ashwini, it's such a pleasure to have you on the Naarishakti Show.
Thank you so much, Aparna. Pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ashwini. Now let's go back at the very foundation.
Sure.
So, Ashwini, when people think of construction, they usually think of buildings, right?
Right.
But behind all the buildings, behind every construction, it's the blueprint.
Yes.
So, what do you think has been the blueprint of your own life?
So I often say that, every building that stands is not because of its beauty, but it stands because of its foundation, which is so strong. And to me, life is also no different. So the blueprint for my life has always been built around three values: integrity, perseverance, and continuous learning. And I think I would give this credit to my parents. I think it's they have rubbed this upon me. So the very first iteration to my blueprint came at a juncture where I wanted to become an architect, but I missed out by writing a aptitude test then along with the CET. So I couldn't become an architect. So the next best option that was available was to become a civil engineer. So I pursued civil engineering 4 years, and then when I started getting into the career, the initial few days, I understood that having only technical knowledge isn't enough, but you also have to start earning trust, taking up responsibilities, and then you also have to show up every single time, even when it's not going your way. So the last 2 decades, if I look back and see, life rarely follows the drawings or the blueprints that what we prepare. So like you already mentioned, there are so many revisions, there are so many iterations, and there are unexpected challenges that we have to maneuver. And sometimes some portions of the blueprint has to be redesigned completely. And all this can happen only when you have your strong values. So if your values are strong, you can always rebuild. And adaptability and flexibility becomes the cornerstones for any blueprint to be successful. I think that's the dynamic blueprint life always throws at us. And that's how I try to live by. So that's the blueprint I always follow. So every time something comes, you change, you align, you pause back, look at it, realign, and move forward. So the blueprint is always on the move, and then you always try to go with it. But then your end destination, as you already would have set for yourself, you wanted to construct a beautiful building. So you attain that whole journey by realigning and then yet construct a nice building. When you sit back, relax, you feel proud about what you've done. So that's how I see. That's how the blueprint that I have built for myself is going on.
So it's interesting. So I actually lived in Hong Kong for 2 years. And when I was in Hong Kong, is the first time I actually appreciated man-made structures, right? When you look at those tall buildings, it's not just the beauty of it, the resilience, because that's also a place where there would be typhoons.
Correct.
Okay. And there used to be this lean structure, high structure, just standing on little pillars. I used to fear, oh my God, I hope this building doesn't collapse.
Yeah.
Right. So when people look at a structure, they're just admiring the end product,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But then there's actually so much that's gone behind the scenes to
Yeah.
make it
Correct.
not just stand there beautifully, majestically, but also make it resilient.
Yes.
I think it's same for life as well. What are
Absolutely.
your thoughts on that?
So, like you said, people always look for, the beauty of the
They don't
buildings,
know
the
the struggles
completed
they have gone.
structure, completed structures, successful projects, or even, achieving business milestones. But what they rarely see, are the efforts that has gone in, the restlessness that people would have put in to achieve that, the sleepless nights, the financial pressures, and all of that, people would rarely see that. And over the 2 decades, if I look back and look at it, that, people always try to appreciate the outer beauty rather than recognizing what is there that has gone in for the inside, and especially in the construction industry, right? So people forget that, with everybody's efforts and every stakeholder's contribution, the project would have got delivered. Same way happens to life, right? So people are successful. So today, if someone says that Ashwini is successful, is not just because of Ashwini, but because there are multiple people in life who would have walked with you, who would have shaped your career, and who would have helped you to be where you are. So if we don't remember or express that particular gratitude to those, I don't see that any journey or any project as a successful one. So appreciating the roots from where we come, and those roots are the ones that will make you stand taller and taller. So when you said Hong Kong, it's such a small place, but where you see the tallest skyscrapers, but you imagine the depth at which the foundations would have gone in. So be it Dubai as well. So Burj Khalifa, I think everybody knows, though it stands that tall, it has gone half of its depth below the ground to stand. So there lies the answer, that how deep are your roots, that taller you stand, and that building becomes resilient no matter which cyclone, no matter which typhoon, no matter which earthquake, it will not shatter. So it will stay there for lifelong. So similarly, life's journey is also like that. So gratitude is one of the strongest root one should carry. So more deeper, more humbleness that you build in, I think you're going to spread your wings everywhere, and you're going to stand there for life.
Beautiful. So, Ashwini, tell me this. When you started off, you didn't quite know where you were going, right? Now, this is an industry, construction is an industry where there's hardly any women representation, either in the site or in boardrooms.
Yeah.
So, how did you actually make the change from actually belonging to those places to actually owning those places? It's a big shift.
Absolutely, and to make that presence felt, it didn't happen overnight, right? So it took time. So during my early career days, I had to work twice hard, to earn that credibility in the industry, where women were rarely seen in the construction sites nor in leadership meeting groups. So I understood something very important during my career days, was that, confidence doesn't come up by trying to impress people, but it always comes up from consistently delivering results. And this started that, when my company, when my team, when my clients, they started trusting my decisions, and when projects were delivered successfully, and when my team started looking up to me for, directions, that's when I stopped worrying whether I belonged. So I realized that I was not in the room because I was a woman in construction, but I was there because I had earned my seat, through sheer competence, preparation, and commitment. So that to me changed everything. So today, when you are on top of your game, so that calls for competence, yes, because of your technical skills, because of the projects that you have delivered. And second, the amount of preparation. So even though after 2 decades, I don't get into any meetings without being prepared, because construction cannot be run on your experience. Every project comes with a new learning, new challenge. So you should always get prepared for the meetings and for the site walks or progress reviews that we always do, because one wrong decision can make or break the project. So I always get into that with preparations. And one last thing is that you cannot sit on the laurels that you have earned and say that this is going to take me long because of this. So I always remember a famous quote, what got you there will not get you here, right? So you have to always have that commitment, urge of commitment that, I've taken up this, I have to do all that it requires to make this project successful, deliver it on time with quality, utmost safety, and the fourth dimension, which nobody talks about, is the cost, right? So if anybody you ask for that matter, they would have got a budget, and by the time they finish the project, the budget would be 1.5x or 2x. But nobody tries to tell you that, yes, with I have finished this at 0.9x, I have finished this at
Nobody
0.8x.
does. Nobody
Does
does.
that, because the industry norm has come up like that, saying, you start with X, it becomes 1.5x.
And it's too late for the client to back
Yeah,
off it.
it's always very difficult when they are into 70% of the project. It's always difficult to back out. Now they have to make all the arrangements to get in that additional. So that's where the pride of me and my team comes in, that we've always delivered projects within the budgets we have signed off. So I think
Very rare and exceptional.
yeah, that's come surely because of our integrity. Surely that's come because of the trust that what we have built with the clients and the credibility. So today in the market, people know Ashwini because of her integrity, because of the trust that people have on her. No matter what, if we give a project to Ashwini and her team, the project gets completed without any hassle. So that's the credibility, over the 2 decades it took for all of us, including me, to come up to this level. And today people see you very differently. So, right, when I joined earlier days, it wasn't like, oh, she's any other girl who's come in, sitting in office, or sitting in front of the system, doing all the computer work. But then when they started seeing me at the project site, I was standing there day and night, during concreting, and I used to talk to laborers and say, this is how work has to be done. People used to look at me very, different, that alien feeling of seeing only a woman in the construction site filled with all men. But then
they say men at work.
Yeah, men at work. Today also it remains that, right? Even though I see a good improvement of women coming in construction, they still say men at work. So that, I think, taboo that you have to overcome, that has to come only by you. Your work has to speak for yourself. And I think in all this 2 decades, a moment of gratitude I should probably mention, if I'm allowed to say, it goes to my very first boss. His name was Ashish Krishnaswamy, and he's still there. So yeah, and Mr. K.N.K. Swamy. So at that very young age of 22, they saw something, a potential in me.
They've been your foundation.
Yeah, they are my foundation today. And they said, Ashwini, you can do it. Go. And they gave me opportunities. So I led the projects, and they gave me opportunities to work in different genres of construction. So it's not just standing at the site and doing execution, but I worked in procurement. I knew how supply chain should work. Then I worked at contracts and business development. Then I worked at billing. Then I worked at planning. So, there was that 360-degree holistic development that they gave. And this would not have been possible if they did not give me an opportunity. I would not have been sitting here, talking to you. So I think a lot of gratitude goes to him, because when I would see my peers coming and signing contracts, they were all veterans in the industries of 25, 30 years. And I was there 8, 10 years old, going out singly, signing contracts for the organization, be it 100 crores or 200 crores. he completely trusted me, saying that no matter what, the decisions that you take, we'll stand by it. So, and the techno commercial skills that I picked up, and he used to teach me, Ashwini, sales is not just about, doing pitches. Sales is also that you should bring your technical competence in convincing a client that, we are the best for them and we understand their requirements better. If all of that would not have come from him, I don't think I would have been able to, take this journey of entrepreneurship, starting my own company. So today I always try to create that kind of opportunities for my team members.
You've spoken about, gratitude.
Yes.
So gratitude is all about positivity.
Yes.
So love
Yeah.
that. Tell me this. So you've spent the last 2 decades constructing, right? But then there was a paradigm shift because you started constructing something much, much bigger, your own vision.
Yes.
So what was it like to to build Uttaram InConstruct LLP? First of all, what is behind that name?
Right.
And what led you to it?
So InConstruct was the first name that came up to my mind,
Okay.
saying that everything in construction is what we are going to do. And but then when we went into registrations and trademark, they said we would like to have a prefix or a
Okay.
suffix to it.
Okay.
And that's when we were dwelling deep about what could be the prefix. And that's when we got this Sanskrit word of Uttaram. So Uttaram has two meanings. One, true north. And the second one is answer to all your construction needs. So Uttaram is an answer.
Yes.
Right? In Sanskrit, Uttaram means an answer. So we are the answer for all the construction needs. And so that's how the
Lovely,
name
very symbolic.
came. Yeah, very symbolic. And even if you look at our company's logo, we have IC, which is also having a true north direction. So everything happened so beautifully, gelled out very nice. So I would say starting Uttaram InConstruct wasn't the biggest or the hardest task by itself, right? So when we started building Uttaram, we realized that we were not just building business, but then we were trying to build our credibility. We were trying to build relationship with the clients. We were trying to build the ecosystem, the culture, and most importantly, the trust. Without that, nothing starts. So there were, like you said, there were tough moments, or I would say moments of pause where, cash flows uncertainties were there at the beginning of the journey, and projects started becoming more challenging. And at sometimes I would sit and wonder, am I doing enough, by starting this company? But then every day I had to walk back into the office with confidence, because there was a whole team that was completely dependent on you and the vision that I had carried. So then I realized that, leadership is often about giving hope to others.
And it's very lonely on the top.
Yes, very lonely on the top, while you might be still searching for yourself, right? So, and I realized that these silent battles which I was fighting all alone there on the top, so that started shaping me better. And I would say that probably is far more better than all the visible achievements today what I have earned. So one thing is, like you mentioned, the word keeps coming back in the journey, the resilience, right? So resilience is, to me, is never about falling. You should not be afraid of falling down, but it's the quiet ability to stand up again and again without losing, your purpose. So I think over the last 7 years at Uttaram InConstruct, every project has taught us something through its challenge, and we have picked up that learning, we have bettered ourselves, and we have entered into a new project. And so it's always been like, never repeat the same mistakes, but you commit a mistake which is new, where you can learn something from it. So the 7 years of 25, 30 big projects that what we have done today, we feel very proud to see the skyline, with our imprints. Yeah.
Now let's get to something more personal.
Sure.
Not a lot of people talk about psoriasis,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And you didn't, it happened to you during your teenage days, but you didn't let it come in your way at all. So tell me, what is the most difficult part of this? And is there a message for the audience who's dealing with similar conditions?
Absolutely. So I got psoriasis when I was just entered into my teens.
Okay.
And so it suddenly came up, right? I had lesions, and today also you can see that. So I still have that. It's not just I've overcome that. I'm managing it better. So at that point of time, it was all over hands, legs, and except my face, everything else was covered with psoriasis. And it was a point in life where my parents didn't know what to do. And I didn't know what to do. But then I had to every day go to school and then do my learnings and go to classes, because I was pursuing a lot of other classes like music, and then there was dance, drawing, then I was playing tennis. So, but then people started looking me with stigma, right? So
Exactly.
that
So
was,
one is the physical,
yes,
the difficulties and the irritation, all of
yes,
that comes with it,
yeah.
and then the stigma around it.
Stigma, and that was very, that kind of pushed me aback, when your own friends who were very close to you, suddenly they start distancing from you, and they look at you and they start, you doing all that gossiping thing. And then by incident, if my hand would get touched to somebody, and instantly they would wipe that, and all of that kind of put me on to a very difficult situation. And I slowly started, you know um, being aloof. I didn't wanted to go to functions, I didn't wanted to participate in anything. But I think that's when my mom stood by me, and what she told me then still stays with me. And she said that beauty is not about the physical appearance. It's the inner beauty what you create for yourself. So just ignore all of this, just put all of that aside. Whether you're beautiful, whether you're successful, or whether you how bright you are, or what is the future that you're going to create for yourself, is not going to be dependent on the situation that you have got. This is also like any other skin disorder. And not many people know psoriasis is non-contagious. So right, it's an autoimmune disorder, where in a human body, all of us, the cell divides at a certain rate. But in people like us, it divides at a multiple rate, at probably 5x or 10x faster, that these lesions start showing up. So because that's the dead cells. So people didn't understand then. So, and it is not contagious, and it's not genetic. It can come to anybody at any given point of time, and body can set right it by itself at some given point of time. And that has lot of scientific factors. Your metabolism, how is your gut health, everything is related to gut. And how is your mindset? The more you get stressed, the more lesions is going to come. So all of this people didn't know then. But then what kept me was that mom saying, you focus on your studies, you focus on your achievements, leave everything aside. We started trying out all possible treatments then that was available, because it was in early 90s and 2000s, where not very much advanced treatments were available. I think they've spent lakhs together at that point of time trying to get me treated, but nothing worked. But then at some point of time, I realized that, when I started getting results and I stood first in my SSLC exam for the school, I slowly noticed how people's thoughts changed towards you. The moment I became a school topper, psoriasis was no longer a reason for them to, outcast me. That's when it kind of reinforced my feeling, saying that no matter what, I'm going to stand up for my own achievements. And that kept on happening right throughout my engineering. Yes, there were times where I used to feel very bad that I couldn't dress up the way I wanted like a teen. I couldn't wear short skirts, I couldn't wear frocks, I couldn't wear anything. I had to always wear long dresses, trying to keep that covered, wear three-fourths. But that's okay. I accepted this is how I'm going to be. But I think once I started working, and then people started looking up to me, Ashwini, as a person, I think everything started falling back into its place. And I realized that, there are some food items that were causing my allergy. I started, keeping it out. And then I tried to manage my stress, work life. So the moment you do that, shift focus in the life. So something is bothering you, just don't give energy to that. Just shift your focus to something else. And this will take time to settle down. I think putting my focus onto my career, and I had set my dream for myself that, like I told you, by 20 years, I wanted to become my own, have my own office. I wanted to become my own boss. I think the entire focus shifted there. And I met few amazing mentors in my life, Aparna. So I met Ian Fariam. So he triggered or ignited that spark of becoming a leader. So he said that, Ashwini, you're a natural leader. Why don't you start looking at polishing the skills? Why don't you start looking at your body language, the way you speak? And through him, and I met Kavita, and Kavita started, talking about more of executive presence. She said, you don't have to dress in formals all the time. Whatever you wear can speak for you. It should speak that, yes, she's in the room not because of her Western formals, or not because of the fancy makeup, or not because of the haircut, but you can still be yourself. The way you carry, the way you talk. I think that should what people should remember for you. And that is something that stuck with me. And I met another mentor called Saika Das. I met them along with Ian, Kavita, and he told me that, Ashwini, I see a CEO in you, right? I see that in very few years you will become the CEO of your own organization. And he gave me one statement which I still have it on my LinkedIn, and I try to always live up by that. He said that, you should be an Indian woman leader with a global mindset. So, and to me, when he said that, Sudha Murthy was the icon that stuck to me. And I started following her, and I understood that, she's an Indian woman. She still carries her own way of dressing, sari, and being a typical South Indian. But look at her aura, look at her presence, look at the work that she has done.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely not anything fancy, but it's the footprints that she has left. So that's when I understood that, being a woman leader with a global mindset, what's happening and how you can create a impact for yourself. I think that has stuck with me. And in my professional career also, I met few good mentors like Mr. Ram Prasad and Mr. SK Venkatram. So they have been my professional mentors. So if you look at me, there's a mentor for everything. There's a mentor for every phase of my life. Someone who is ignited my mother, she's the first teacher who ignited that spirit. And then there's a person who taught leadership, then a person who saw where I could. So he gave me that path on which I could, tread. And there are people in my professional career who they are trying to teach me how to be a better business person by not getting diluted with all the, ruckus that's happening in the industry. You don't have to get carried away. So if you look at it, having guru or having a mentor in life at crucial time probably would defines a person's journey. So I've been so blessed to have met all of them in such a short span. So instead of 20, like I told you, by 14th year, I was ready to start Uttaram InConstruct.
Just like your budget, right? So you would
Yes.
always stick to your budget. So here
Yes.
you had a timeline.
Yes.
You
So
actually outperformed it.
Yes, outperformed. So I think it all happens, Aparna. The whole, if you look at it, it's all just the manifestation, right? So what today everybody talks about, how to manifest. So I think the whole process, if I look at my 20 years of journey, I think everything has worked beautifully around that manifestation. You want something, you desire from your heart, and then universe conspires you in the shortest possible time. So I think this journey has been amazing, and I'm looking forward what life stores in for the future as well.
So thank you so much, Ashwini, for opening up. Not everyone has the courage to open up. You did.
Yeah.
And since you opened up, Kavita mentioned something about your pregnancy.
Yeah,
There were difficulties.
absolutely. It was
So
not an easy
if
journey.
we could hear that and be inspired.
Um, Motherhood, embracing motherhood or embracing parenthood wasn't easy for us, for me and my husband. So we were trying to conceive, and then things wouldn't work out, and then stress started building, and then society starts questioning
Especially in
you
India,
in
right?
India, right? So you've been married for so many years. Why is that you're not able to give us a good news? And then you have all your younger cousins who are already having babies, and that also keeps
Adds
adding,
pressure.
yeah, and it's pressure. So we were trying many medical treatments. So you name the treatment, we would have undergone that. All our medical reports were very normal, blood works were very normal, but still, why weren't we conceived? And it had been so much time had passed by that we didn't know what to do. So we had tried, kind of given up our hopes. So even if you ask, we had tried IUIs, we had 2 rounds of IVFs, and it was a failed IVF. And the body, the I would say the weight with which the hormone therapies tax your body was very harsh. And I told my husband that probably, I would need a break. And I could no longer continue this hormone therapies and those injections, those continuous scans. And I said, I can't take it anymore. And he said, just let's take a 6 months break. During that time, I think COVID happened. And at that point of time, suddenly, while I was just going through on a Facebook, I saw a doctor, and her name is Dr. Katyayani from Motherhood, Banshankari. And somehow I instantly connected with her.
Mhm.
And I told my husband, why don't we just go and have a
Mhm.
consultation?
It's that gut
So
feeling.
it was just a pure gut feeling. And that day when we took an appointment, we were the only 2 people in the hospital along with the doctor. The hospital was empty. And I went her, I met her, and there was instant connect. I could see that radiation in her eyes saying that she's going to make me become a mother. And she said, let's just do a basic scan, and you won't believe it. She was the first doctor who actually found out what the problem was. One of my fallopian tubes was blocked, and because of that, I was not able to conceive. Years before that, where I had undergone many treatments, none of the doctors were able to identify this. So then she said, Ashwini, your chances of naturally conceiving is only 50% because we have to rely upon only other fallopian
Hmm.
tube. But then she said, let's get I also had PCOD at that time, and she said, let's just get started. Let's start working on your PCODs and see that we'll try to bring your cycles regular, and then we'll start doing your hormone therapies, and we'll try to create an congenial environment and ecosystem inside your body that you're ready. But then she also told me, being a med doctor, she also told me, why don't you try out some alternate therapies which might help you embrace motherhood. So she said, and when she told me that, one of my friend, her name is also Aparna, she introduced me to craniosacral therapy. So the
Mhm.
white elephant studio puja. So I went and met her. She said my body was imbalanced, and she said she'll start working on that, how to balance out the five elements in the body. She said I'll start working on that. And then she also suggested look at acupuncture. And then we started looking acupuncture, where they eased out all the toxins that had accumulated because of my previous treatments. They started flushing it out through acupuncture. And suddenly I was having a conversation one day with Pooja, and then she said, Ashwini, why don't you try something called hypnotherapy? And I was little flabbergasted by listening to that word of hypnotherapy. Then she said,
Again,
no.
there's a negative connotation to
Yeah,
it, right?
negative connotation. I
Hmm.
said, why
Hmm.
hypnotherapy? What does it have to do with
Hmm.
my treatment of becoming a mother? Then she said, no, why don't you go and meet one of my friend?
Hmm.
So her name is Shalini, and she's a spiritual healer. I just went, met her. She just told me to lie down, and she just told me to follow the steps. And while doing that, I realized that I had a huge blockage, mental blockage that, I wasn't ready to become a mother. She said, your mind wants to become a mother, but your heart and the soul and the body isn't ready. So there's a disconnect. And she helped me to work on releasing that mental blockage, and the experience was like very surreal, Aparna. So I did just couple of sessions with her. I had some baggages that I had carried, and once I let go of that, while doing all of this, again, Instagram, one of my friend recommended an Instagram birth educator. Her name is Anupama Vriksham. So she is an amazing birth educator. She takes you from pre-pregnancy to post-pregnancy and breastfeeding and everything. So one of my friends said, just attend this webinar. Probably something might help you. And when I went through and attended her online webinar, she only said one thing, saying that you have to trust your body and you have to tell your body that you are ready to become a mother. So keep doing this affirmation and you see how magic will unfold. And I kept doing this religiously without even having a second thought. Every day I would do this affirmation. I would caress my body saying that, I trust you. I know that you are ready. And then treatments were happening in parallel. And we were ready for our third IVF. And the doctor said, everything is ready, the embryos are ready. So we just have to wait for your next cycle, take 3 weeks, and then come back once you have your monthly cycles. And we were waiting. And that moment, that month, the monthly cycles didn't happen. She said probably it's because of hormones and tablets. So let's wait for one more week. So we waited 28 days. And then she said, why don't you do a home kit test? And when we did that, we saw those two pink lines. And
what a magical moment.
What a magical moment. I couldn't believe that I was seeing the two lines. I bought in 10 more kits and we tested, and everything showed the same. Then I sent it to my doctor and she said, that's a great news, but let's not rush. I would like you to get the blood work done. Let the blood work prove that, you are conceived and you have conceived. So we did the blood work. I got the results and sent it to her on WhatsApp. And that's when she called me and said, what a miracle you have got. And she said, even before, IVF could happen, Ashwini, you have naturally conceived. And I couldn't believe that I had to pinch myself so hard to then realize that, yes, I had conceived, and we had to wait for that 45th day. She said, don't utter a word until I tell you. So every day was like we were counting 31, 32, and then 45th day we went to the hospital, and then she showed and she made me hear those beautiful heartbeat. And that's when I think the feeling of actually sank in, saying that yes, I'm becoming a mother. Only when you go through that you realize the whole pain and joyness of seeing this. So she used to always tell that one day when you become mother you will realize this. I think that moment came when I held my baby in my hand. So that was a very beautiful chapter in my life, Aparna, which transformed me. And today, if you look at it, I have two babies. One, my son, who is growing up. Other one is Uttaram InConstruct. It's also like my baby, right?
Yes,
so I've
very
been
much.
nurturing it
Very much.
Since 7 years. And today, that responsibility of managing a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old is as equal as important. So
Very true.
that's something, one has made me a better human being, the other one is making me a better leader. So at the end of the day, you feel so accomplished when you see both the children's are, growing up into nice one human being, and the other one is a business ecosystem where you really want to give back to the society. Whatever you have taken, you want to give it back. So I think that is an amazing journey. And
Yeah, it was so heartwarming. And what does Naarishakti mean to you, Ashwini?
Naarishakti definitely to me is not about proving that women are stronger than men, but it's about the ability to recognize the incredible strength a woman always carried, right? So it's the ability to rise, to nurture without losing ambition. To me, Nari Shakti is also to lead with compassion without compromising on excellence. It would not be just by creating opportunities for ourselves, but to create opportunity for others. So, to me, Nari Shakti in nutshell is the quiet confidence, it's the resilience, it's the purpose, it's her ability to choose in building families, be it careers, businesses, communities, or future with courage and grace. Because, Aparna, I always believe when one woman rises, she inspires many other women to believe that they can rise too. I think that's the true spirit of Nari Shakti for me.
Beautiful, beautiful. I absolutely loved every bit of what you said. It was so inspiring, and I loved the little nuggets that you gave, for every question. I really hope that, you similarly felt, those little sparks, those little nuggets, and they were of a lot of inspiration to you. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. The biggest takeaway for me was the ingredients, right? We are all like seeds, but we need those ingredients. Those buildings, they are shaped by resilience.
Yes.
They're strengthened by perseverance and held together by purpose, right?
Absolutely. So
And
well
I
said.
love the word that you came up again and again, gratitude.
Gratitude. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's fill ourselves with gratitude, and positivity is bound to come our way. So, want to hear more stories of other women? Like, share, and subscribe. And until next week, stay strong, stay beautiful. We'll be back with another woman and her story. Thank you.